I did what they say I tried to do. Guilty as charged. On the tape, the hum of deep space. Then, a clear alto says, Pimplia County Emergency Services, dispatcher 12. What's the location of your emergency? There comes a sound like a ratchet wrapped in a towel. A hard clap breaks into clatter. The phone hitting the floor. After a pause, a tenor, in the upper registers of stress, says, Operator? Yes. What's the We need some medical help here. The alto crescendos. What's the nature of your problem? The answer is a low, inhuman cry. The tenor murmurs, It's okay, sweetie, it's all right. Is someone sick? The alto asks. Do you need an ambulance? Another muffled bump turns into static. The silence ends in a stifled O. Rapid word shear off, unidentifiable even with digital filtering and enhancement. The sounds of failed comforting. The dispatcher says, Sir, can you confirm your address? Someone hums a muted tune, a lullaby from another planet. Then the line goes dead. I was sure no one would ever hear a note. This was my piece for an empty hall. The two officers who pulled up in front of 806 South Linden in an Indigo squad car had already dealt that evening with an antidepressant overdose, a Muller-breaking scrum in a convenience store, and a eugenics debate involving small arms fire. Life in a Pennsylvania college town flexing itself, and the night was still young. The house belonged to Peter Clement Els, an adjunct professor who had been released from Verata College 3 years before. The police database had nothing. It seemed Mr. Els had never even jaywalked. The two officers, a young man with a shot putter's gait and an older woman who gazed around bewildered as she walked, headed up the path to the front steps. Maple branches clicked in the spring wind. Dampened hilarity spilled out of a nearby house and across two dark lawns. High overhead, the twin jets of a short-haul flight shrieked toward the regional airport. Cars skittered up and down the state highway 4 blocks away. The front porch was littered with things on the verge of being put away. A wood chipper, a pair of chewed-over rawhide bones, nested flower pots, a bicycle pump. The male officer held open the screen, and the woman knocked, braced for anything. Something flickered behind a half-moon window, and the door swung open. A gaunt, monkish man stood in the wedge of light. He wore rimless glasses and a plaid work shirt piled around the collar. His grey hair looked as if a pioneer woman had been cutting it using an inverted bowl. An archipelago of food stains speckled his corduroys. His eyes were way elsewhere. Mild disarray ruled the room behind him. Mission chairs sat ringed by bookshelves. Books, CD jewel cases, and stalagmite-coated candles covered every surface. A corner of the worn Persian rug was flipped up. The evening's dinner dishes sat stacked on a magazine-covered coffee table. The female officer surveyed the scene. Peter Els, you placed the call to emergency services? Els closed his eyes, then opened them. My dog just died. Your dog? Fidelio. You dialed 911 for a dog? Beautiful golden retriever, 14 years old. She started hemorrhaging out of the blue. Your dog was sick, the policeman said, her voice sagging under the weight of humanity. And you didn't dial a vet? The guilty party dropped his eyes. I'm sorry. A stroke, I guess. She was sliding around on the floor and howling. She bit me when I tried to move her. I thought that if someone could help restrain... Behind the gate, down a hallway leading from the living room, a green kilt covered with a lump as big as a curled-up child. The male officer pointed. Peter Els took a look. When he turned back, his face was an anagram for confusion. She must have thought I was punishing her. He held the half-open door and studied the ceiling. I'm sorry to have bothered anyone. It felt like an emergency. The officer nodded toward the lump. Can we have a look? Els flinched. At what? She's dead. After a clumsy pause, he stepped aside. In Else's living room, the uniforms looked harsher and more hardware-laden. The 3 walls of floor-to-ceiling shelves stuffed with books and CDs unnerved the male officer. He stepped over the gate and down the hall to the covered lump lying on the floor, where he turned back the sheet. That dog trusted me, Els said. Goldens are good dogs, the woman said. That dog loved everybody. I'm surprised she lasted 14 years. The male officer pulled the kilt back over the corpse. He retreated down the hall and stepped back over the gate. He fingered his belt. Baton, handcuffs, communicator, keys, pepper spray, flashlight, gun. His brass name bar read Mark Powell. You'll have to contact Animal Care and Control. I thought I'd... Els thumped toward the back of the house. Give her a decent burial. She loved it back there. You have to call Animal Care and Control, sir. Reasons of public health. We can give you the number. Peter Els raised his brows and nodded, as if all kinds of mysteries at last made sense. The woman gave him a number. She assured him the law required the call and that nothing could be easier. Officer Powell scanned the shelves of CDs. Thousands of discs, the latest obsolete technology. A large wooden frame, like a freestanding coat rack, stood against one wall. Several sawn-off water cooler bottles hung from the frame by bungee cords. Powell touched his belt. Judas Priest. Cloud chamber boils, Els said. Cloud chamber? Isn't that some kind of... It's just a name, Els said. You play them. You're a musician? I used to teach it. Composition. A songwriter. Peter Els cupped his elbows and bowed his head. It's complicated. What do you mean complicated? Techno-folk? Psychobilly ska? I don't write much anymore. Officer Powell looked up. Why not? A lot of music in the world. The communicator on the policeman's belt hissed, and the woman's voice issued phantom instructions. True, Dad. There's a lot of everything.